we've actually delayed a lot of things because our pre-independence leaders have taken long in terms of actually transitioning leadership and ensuring that the issues that we're facing as this generation, requires a 21st century kind of mindset and thinking to be able to solve those particular issues.
I think, sorry to cut you short, talking about pre-independence leaders, is it because maybe we don't want to let go, others don't want to let go of that power effect?
That's the issue, because I mean, we've seen before independence and during KK's time, that leadership that was there, that revolutionized our country in terms of education and other sectors. We read that during the KK government, the first 10 years of UNIP, the president himself was 40 years, and he had ministers as early as young as 23 years. He had ambassadors as early as 19 years, But what they were able to do at that particular time were actually marvelous. They created industries. Almost every province of this country had actually an industry. We were producing, we had copper and our minerals in our hands because, we were managing all those, and the money that came from there helped us in terms of liberating other, Southern African countries, but also, provide opportunities for the young generation that were coming up at that particular time. But beyond that, I think we've seen a situation where people as old as 70, 80 years still want to actually be in government, But during that time, we saw that when people retire, they were given their retirement packages and they were able to go back home and develop their own villages and so on. But I think we saw some level of selfishness as time was going on, where pre-independence leaders want to actually hold on to power until death.
Okay, all right. So now let's look at the post-independence generation. Now, how can this generation move Zambia forward? And just as you answer that question, what do they bring to the table that the pre-independence generation doesn't bring to the table? Because sometimes they say experience is the best teacher.
Okay, so I think that is a very good question to actually tackle. So first of all, the post-independence generation, bring on the table, the 21st century ideas and technology and, solutions that the pre-independence leaders don't see, or that they cannot actually bring to the table. But also, we bring unity. As we are launching this movement, we actually set ourselves to actually bring back the ideologies and refine the ideologies that our forefathers actually believed in. Pan-Africanism, decolonization, and Ubuntu, So for us, we believe that there's no ideology that we can import, because the problem of Zambia and the problem of Africa started when they began to actually import ideologies and systems, Currently, we are in a capitalist kind of, ideology. Others are propelling socialist ideologies. Those ideologies are not African ideologies, These are imported ideologies from either Europe or Latin America or Asia, The African ideology is Ubuntu, And we think that the pre-independence generation have failed to sustain, Ubuntu as an ideology, as an African ideology that was supposed to unite us and develop us.
And this is where we came from.
This is where we came from.
When fighting for independence,
yes.
We had the Ubuntu ideology, but now, looking at the way things have evolved, I mean, even just families, there's
yes.
no that sense of Ubuntu. Do you think this can work? Can we actually achieve this?
The selfish, the selfish pre-independence leaders have actually divided this country based on tribalism and so on. But before that, we had the Pan-Africanism kind of, ideology, which united every black person, because our culture and our way of life is actually the same. The older people can actually agree with me that when you are a stranger, you are moving from Kasama and you are actually a stranger from anywhere, as long as you are black, you would actually stop anywhere. They would welcome you, they would actually give you food, You know, in Western Province, we have what we call Zango, even Northwestern, where people used to bring food together in one place and they would eat from there. So even someone who doesn't have food, they would actually come and eat. That is what we called Ubuntu. Pan-Africanism is what KK, propagated, because after we won independence, he didn't just look at the independence of Zambia. He used the resources of Zambia to also fight struggles of other, neighboring countries to ensure that they are of where they're coming from, which tribe, what age, and so on, but looking at the potential of a human being and ensure that development is centered on an individual. That's why KK was able to give free education. That's why KK was ensured that at grade 7 there was a vehicle that was ready to take you. If you are tired with education, they will take you to ZNS and you'll be a soldier. You have a route where you actually go out to ensure that you contribute to the development of the country. But this was abandoned altogether after UNIP coming to MMD, because MMD adopted a foreign ideology of capitalism, which now saw us losing almost all our means of production. All the industries were gone, and we saw now a foreign interest taking center stage in our economy. That is what is there even today, and we are not able to actually develop everything that we're being promised is, young people will be employed, so there will be an investor that will come, they will invest in these particular areas, and they'll create so many jobs for young people. Ask me, those jobs that we're talking about, how much these young people will get. It's a 5,000, it's a 6,000, it's a 7,000.
Even less. Or
even less than that. How are they going to actually aspire to be billionaires if they are getting that amount of money for the rest of their living? And what happens if that particular investor, foreign investor, actually pulls out? It means their job is gone. But what we are saying is that I think we need to bring back the aspect of, us owning the means of production, us owning the land, us owning the minerals, and be able to sell these minerals and not only pay tax, but also own the profit from those minerals and create real jobs that will be able to actually sustain our population, but also encourage investment by the young people themselves. The indigenous citizens of Zambia should be able to actually acquire resources to be able to invest in every sector of our economy, so that then the money remains within the country and we don't need to depend on the outside to actually come and invest in here and sustain our economic fundamentals.
Okay, very interesting. Now, earlier you brought up the issue of recycled leaders running certain ministries. So now, as GLZ, which ministries in particular right now do you think need a change of direction?
Yeah, I think for us it's the whole system. But I can give you examples that in 2021 when we went to an election, I think even the government knows that young people rose up, I was at the center stage of the 2021 election on the ground, and you saw a lot of young people making queues, to actually vote for the change which they deserved. But after this change came, I think you agree with me, and a lot of young people out there agree with me, including those that actually served in the ruling party, that they saw a lot of disappointments, first of all in the appointments. Just a few months from the time UPND won, we saw the appointments of the cabinet. If you look at that cabinet, the composition of that cabinet, you will see that it is composed mostly, information ministries are composed mostly of recycled, politicians. The Minister of Finance was a Minister of Finance in MMD, and he was rejected during that particular time, and he brought misery at that particular time. What new ideas would we bring now? The Minister of Technology, which is actually very, very, something that, we expected that would get young people with a tech mindset. Technology came, this technology that we have now came after independence. It's a new phenomenon in Africa and in Zambia to be particular. And young people are more, conversant with this, technology currently than the older generation. But what did we see? We saw a minister of technology being appointed who served in the MMD, served in the Patriotic Front, and now he's serving now. The question that we young people would ask is, what new ideas will this person bring? How will this person revolutionize, technology in our lifetime? What solution does he have for us? We believe that ourselves as, this generation know the challenges very well that we are facing, and we know the solutions that needs to actually be addressed, that will actually address these challenges that we are actually facing. We have the Minister of Infrastructure. To be honest, I mean, our father, Honorable Mirupi, is tired. Those are people that have worked from UNIP. They've actually been in leadership. At this particular time, they needed to really rest, be with their grandchildren, or provide some kind of support to the young generation to be able to move this country forward. But they still cling to government. We're happy with the president because he's not a recycled leader. He can still bring some level of, sanity. And currently, if you agree with me, if you look at how the trajectory in terms of how the country is moving, it's like one man is actually running this country. He's our chief marketing officer. We're so happy with him and so on. But the rest of the team, you can see some kind of tiredness, some kind of replication of ideas and so on. We had IMF, for example, in the 90s, and we have IMF now. The question that you beg to actually answer is, what kind of solutions has IMF brought to any single African countries in this continent? There's zero. Actually, the time when we actually had this engagement with and experience with IMF, we went from the west to the west, So
I think sorry, before I actually forget this point, I think in the past few days, one of our guests actually said there is no country that is developed that has dealt with the IMF. Would you agree with this?
Yes, I agree, because they have austerity. Each time they come into solving this problem, they bring in austerity measures, and austerity measures actually goes to affect the poor. For example, now there's a subsidy removal from fuel. Who is affected is the poor. All these cabinet ministers they have free fuel, they have free electricity, and so on. The rest of us, you and me, are the ones that are paying for all these austerity measures that come in. And wherever they've gone, they've also, propagated, selling of national assets. Like if ZESCO is not viable, sell it to the private sector. And who is this private sector? It's actually the European, businessmen that come to buy off, through privatization, these, national companies. And at the end of the day, who suffers, who becomes marginalized? It is us, the young people, and this generation that actually depend on those assets for the betterment of the country. So there's nowhere, and I've not read of any country where IMF interventions has actually worked and it has actually helped the country to become better than they were.
So why are our leaders not realizing this? Is it because we know better than them, or they know better than us?
It is the issue of a lot of factors. First of all, it's the education system, and that's where I'm coming to talk about the key values of this movement. We talked about Pan-Africanism, we talked about Ubuntu. The other key value that we talk about is decolonization. There's need, there's another topic that we would like us perhaps to spare for another day, about whether the independence that we got was a genuine independence or it was a change.
Actually, it's important, so we can just touch on it.
Yes.
It's your platform.
There's actually a debate that we need to have whether this independence that most African countries, including Zambia, got was really, we fought for this independence and we won it, or it was actually given to us because our colonizers wanted to change the means of colonization, Because up to now, from independence, we still use the colonial education system, you know, that only educate us to become civil servants, you know. We have a lot of engineers currently, you know, graduating from University of Zambia, but who is building our roads? It's the Chinese, it's the Europeans, it's any other persons. We had COVID-19 recently, you know, and we've had doctors and researchers and medical people that graduate from university, but we still waited for COVID-19 vaccine from Europe, you know. So is the current education really, you know, helping us to be able to actually develop us each way? No, we're still using the colonized kind of education system that only prepares us to actually become civil servants. A lot of our young people that are graduating are waiting to be employed. They are not thinking about employing.
Don't you?
You know? So
I mean, this
decolonization.
This is actually very interesting.
Yes.
I'm intrigued and taken
Yes.
by that thought. I mean, so it also starts from household level.
Yes.
The way you teach your child to say, invest in, maybe our parents push us too much towards school, when we can actually maybe, what if I'm talented in soccer? What if I am not meant to be a journalist? I mean, all these things, is it part of the colonization
yes,
that we have going
all
on?
this has to do with leadership. If you have a leadership that want to perpetuate the kind of, you know, systems that were inherited from colonizers, you know, they've perpetuated this system. And we are saying that as a new generation, when we come in, we need to actually focus on decolonizing our education system. Because if this was done from the UNIP government, this time we were actually going to be a different Zambia altogether, you know. We would actually realize that it's not everyone who is able to do 8 subjects and pass in English for them to, or pass in mathematics for them to become a,
and then,
you know.
so even when you go on Facebook, some will say,
yes,
I'm still waiting for the day when the Pythagoras theory will be relevant to my life.
Yes, yes. So those things. So we are saying that our parents, our grandparents became beneficiaries, and that's why they're perpetuating, you know, staying in office, because they are beneficiaries to the colonial system, and they want to perpetuate this colonial system so that then they continue to benefit until death, them and their families only. Because if they were looking at patriotism and actually, you know, saving this country beyond, you know, colonial times, they would have actually made several changes to the systems. So if Musokotwan and everyone else who had economics at that time, what is written in the books is that when you are indebted and when you go into an economic recession, the only route is IMF and World Bank. That's what is written in the books, you know. They can't think outside the book, what is written. They have to abide by that education and that orientation, you know. But we are saying as a generation that I think the fact that we have our own minerals, you know, we have emeralds in Zambia, we have copper, we have gold, and so on, instead of actually letting it into private hand, those are the minerals, you know, the natural resources that we are supposed to help us come out of poverty, you know. The people that, look, right now you have mining companies that are declaring losses, you know, year in, year out. From the time they actually put in investments, they are actually declaring losses, but they are not going. You know, we're getting so little from the taxing and so on, and they're saying they're actually making losses. Copper is actually at its highest price, I mean, in the global market right now. But
maybe as you explain that, you can also just touch on your thought on these tax breaks, since you've brought up the issue of mines.
Yes, and I'll tell you that foreign investments and foreign, you know, private entities have more leverage on the Zambian market to actually thrive than local enterprises. Because if today me and you want to register a company, from the word go, once we register it, we are in ZRA, you know, system. We are in NAPSA system. The next day, without caring whether we started making profit or not, they'll start giving us charges. They want to milk us from the word go. But when a foreign company comes, they'll give them a 5 years tax break to say, no, let them first settle and so on and so forth. During that particular time, they'll make their profits and actually, recoup their, their investment from there. By the time they start taxing them, they would have already made their profits. And most of the time what happens is that by the time they start taxing them, they rebrand and come back again as a new company.
But then this issue of rebranding, it's something that has been happening. Is our system just playing a blind eye? What do you think is going on? Because we have companies that for 5 years it's red.
Yeah.
Then another 5 years it's green.
It's green.
Same company.
Yes.
5 years it's orange.
Mm-hmm.
5 years it's pink.
Yes.
So
there's no way this generation and the next generation can actually benefit from its natural resources and everything if we are going to sustain and keep a pre-independence generation that has failed us for the past 58 years. We are not going to actually, continue to, to trust that each one of them, look at how they do things. They just come from one political party and rebrand to another and so on. But perpetuate the same systems. They come with different messages, perpetuate the same systems. From UNIP, you are able to track the same people that were in UNIP, they were in MMD, and they were in PF, and now from PF they are actually now in UPND. You are able to track them, and some of them have died along the way.
soon they'll be
some
with you.
of them, yeah. So literally, you can't expect any kind of transformation if we are not going to have a transition of leadership. Even when you look at the poverty situation, the people that have money currently are the pre-independence generation. Why? Because they have had big jobs. Mm-hmm. I want to mention, look at the declarations that we saw. We saw Stumbeko Musokota declaring he refused that it was not 300 million. Whether it's 300,000.
Manufactured
yes. Whether it's 300,000 kwacha cash in the account. You see the assets of Mr. Mirupi, compare with the post-independence generation, Me and you today, when we are thinking about 300,000 kwacha in the account, that's a dream. We're not even thinking about that, How were they able to, we are getting a 5,000 kwacha, we're getting a 6,000 kwacha, such that immediately you get it, it's gone, Mm-hmm. So, the perpetuation of this situation where a small group of people that were born before independence have acquired wealth that is able to actually facilitate and perpetuate them in political positions, because literally what they do during election is buy beer for young people and buy few journalists and so on. Because we are vulnerable, we fought to that, and at the end of the day vote for them back into office, and things happen as usual.
Okay, so very interesting. Now, before we run out of time, I know we can go on and on and on. Let's talk about some of your goals as Generation Lead Zambia. What are some of your goals?
So we have 4 goals. The first critical one is actually decolonization. It's under the theme called decolonization. We are saying that as a generation, we need to believe that, I think for us to be completely independent, mm-hmm. When we actually, this transition takes over, we need to decolonize our socio-economic and political systems, because the systems that we are using currently, including the constitution, is actually an amendment act of the London, the British constitution. We don't have our own constitution. From independence, we've been amending an act of a European, of a British constitution. So we need to have our own constitution. We need to decolonize our education system. We need to decolonize our social systems and economic systems. Our economic systems in the way of ensuring that we own the means of production. That is the second one. Ownership of the means of production means that we own land, we own our minerals and our own natural resources, because those are key for our productivity. We cannot get those things in private hands. Then the third one is actually corruption and inequality. So we believe that even as we are thinking about the Zambia that we want or the Africa that we want, we need to ensure that, corruption is a disease. So we need to actually pay solidarity to the fight against corruption, but also ensuring that we fight inequality. Inequality is basically the gap between the rich and the poor. We shouldn't have classes, During the KK time, everyone, irrespective of where you're coming from, were going to the same schools. There were no private schools. There were no private hospitals. When you are actually having a country where there are no private things, there will be attention. Right now, they don't care whether they are medicines because they can afford to go to private hospitals when they are sick. Their children are going to private schools. If it's not existing in Zambia, they will fly out of the country, But if you have a system which does not actually, perpetuate classes, that you have the poor and the rich are going to Manda Hill, the poor are going to Soweto, You have a system that ensures that everything is actually equal. The rich and the poor go to the same school. Everyone who is in government will ensure that that education system is of high quality, So I think that is one of the other areas. So beyond that, we also have, I've talked about corruption, I've talked about, so there's the aspect of post-independence generation. Mm-hmm. That's another objective. We believe that post-independence generation is better placed to understand the reality of the current generation than our grandparents. You understand the challenges, and if you are given to actually find a solution to the current challenges, you find those solutions because you are related to those challenges. Mm-hmm. In any way, if you, for example, you are the president today, you still have many years to live, meaning that you can make mistakes and make amends to those mistakes because you still have many years to. But what we have today is that you have people that are actually, even walking on walking sticks, wanting to be presidents. The mistakes which they will leave as, for example, Chikwanda, Comrade Chikwanda is gone. He borrowed how much? He cannot take responsibility of the mistakes that he made because he made those mistakes at his last point of life, So we believe that the post-independence generation are actually, well placed to understand the challenges of this generation and the solutions to this generation. And they still have enough time to be able to make mistakes, but also take responsibilities on the mistakes which they will actually make. Okay. Today, if Honorable Msokotwan, stole money, by just placing him in a cell, he will be dead because his years, his health, and so on cannot allow him to endure certain lifestyle and so on.
Now, do you think politics should have maybe a retirement age of some
There should be a transition. I think, to be honest, even as we are speaking here, we should at a particular time be able to say, that we've done our part and it's time to pass on to the next generation. You cannot be able to cling to, to positions of leadership when your time has actually expired and when you don't actually understand the challenges of that particular generation that you are trying to actually pursue yourself to actually lead. Allow that generation as much as possible to also face their own challenges and make their own mistakes and take the country to the next level. We cannot continue dragging people from before independence to actually, look at our challenges now. We need to actually find a way to ensure that, the current generation actually focuses on the challenges, the 21st challenges that we are facing now.
Okay. Thank you very much for that depth. Yeah, so now listening to you articulate these issues, one is wondering, is this a movement? Are we a political party? Because now in Zambia we have seen a situation where political parties are coming on the scene, starting off as movements, saying, no, we are reforming, we have movements. And then time and time we start seeing them participate in politics. And of course we'll get to the details of the politics, but for somebody that is watching and wondering, what exactly are we doing? I know you've explained
Yeah.
the issue of transforming and all that, but
Yeah.
are you going to be a registered political party, or are you a registered political party as of now?
No. So Generation Lead is a collection of different youth, post-independence leaders, and so on. As I mentioned, it's non-political. We embrace anyone who was born after independence, irrespective of which political party they come from. And in our movement right now, you find a list of young people and post-generation leaders that belong to different political parties, but with the same agenda.
Okay.
I've told you that NDC leader Savoy is a member here. Activists, you know, like Pilato, well, Rola Miti is not part of the movement yet, but we have members of parliament who are young, like the Twambos. We have mayors like the mayor of Chipata, the Katete mayor, Mongu mayor. They are all on the group. Why? Because we share a common understanding, irrespective of which political party they're coming from.
So are we going to see you participate in politics anytime soon? I mean,
we are actually going to campaign for any post-independence, you know, leader who stand anywhere on whichever political party platform.
Maybe that's very interesting. Explain that for us in detail.
So what we mean is that, for example, if we have a by-election in Kabushi, and we already have on our platform, we already have some of the members expressing interest to actually participate.
Irrespective of the
political party which they are actually, you know, standing on. Our interest is that if we can increase ourselves in decision-making position, that is a plus for us. It means that we are already transforming a Zambia, we are transitioning leadership from the pre-independence to the post-independence. If they are going to stand with anyone from the post-independence, will go throughout throttle, irrespective of the political party, to go and campaign that grandfather and ensure that the young person, the post-independence young person actually takes the day. So we are we are not a political movement. I mean, we are not a political party, and we are not intending to be a political party, but we are intending to be a movement of the post-independence generation that has got the same aspiration of actually changing this country in terms of transition, but also, you know, affiliates to the aspect, to our core values, which is 3 PDU, Pan-Africanism, decolonization, and Ubuntu. So those are the 3 things that actually, so whoever is going into the platform, irrespective of the political party, they need to affiliate. By the way, for you to be a member, you have to swear to the oath of allegiance, to the values of the movement. So wherever you are going, whether you're going to stand under the PF or the socialist or wherever, you have to actually affiliate to, you have to actually do an oath of allegiance to these 3 key values that we believe in. Pan-Africanism, because we are now a member, Generation Lead is a member of African Rising. African Rising is a movement, again, at the African level that is looking at also the same agenda of the Africa we want. I'll talk about that to say African unity has been delayed because of this same issue of people feeling comfortable and having power. They say Zambia, since now we have power, I'm the president of Zambia, then they feel that if they affiliate to the African Union, like United States of Africa.
Before you go further, let's see if we can pick up this call. Hello, good evening. We've fine, thank you, sir. Who are we speaking to, and where are you calling us from? Okay, and you are Mr. Mr. Fred. Okay, go ahead with your question or contribution. Emkwai, Tuam for no Beshtaya to put a Bastoa Totela. Emkwai. So at the
Politics. Well, there's no line that actually takes you to have you take leadership unless you talk about politics or election, and that's why I'm saying that a movement like ours have to actually support the post-independence leaders to take power.
Well, before you finish that, let's see if we can squeeze in one more. Hello, good evening. Okay, we lost that one. You can
yeah. So if you are actually talking about taking power or having a transition of power, it has to be through an election. So, and that's why we're saying that this movement will go. All of us there will be another generation who will demand from us at a time to say, no, you've overstayed. So this movement has to actually continue. So we cannot sacrifice this movement to actually making it a political party. But we know that there are already existing political parties, some of which are even led by the young people themselves and the post-independence generation. We're going to support them. We're going to negotiate with them.
Well, we are running out of time. We have to squeeze in one more. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. Oh, we lost that caller. Unfortunately, the program is coming to an end, so we will let him conclude.
Yes, so as I'm concluding, yes, we're talking politics because it's the only way to governance. But we're saying our position is that we're not going to actually be a political party, but we're going to support and be in solidarity with the post-independence politicians when it comes to politics. It's not only political leaders, by the way. We have also the social sector, NGOs and so on, who is leading there. Can we have old people make space for the younger generation?
So it's actually on national level
it's
and
national
not
level.
just politics.
It's not only politics. That's what we're saying.
So this can also be directors of certain companies?
Yes, certain companies. It can be private sector. It can be here. It can be anywhere. If you are actually promoted as the CEO of this television station, we're going to support that. If we have someone who is perpetuating and they don't want to, we're going to fight that because our approach is, very. When I come to the issue of corruption, as much as we want everyone to own houses and so they should own it rightly.
You said poverty mentality, that why not
it's not only
houses?
poverty. And for me, I can assure you that if I'm a civil servant, you know how much a civil servant earns. And from nowhere, I own buses and so on. I should be able to actually say, yes, I own this, through better means. And that's why we're saying that the means of production should be in the hands of Zambians. At the moment, the means of production is in the hands of mostly foreign investors. And if a Zambian who is in government as a teacher is actually now owning 45 houses, that he has to, if and is asked to actually justify how he owned that, he should be able to actually say, oh, this is how I owned that. It's not an issue, But what we are actually promoting is that the means of production, minerals, natural resources, land, and so on should be in the hands of us as Zambians. It should be in the hands of us. Once it is in the hands of us, we can definitely be millionaires.
Okay. So yes. For now, you say we are not allowed to be millionaires.
I think that is the situation.
As long as we...
The people that are actually propagating to have money, where 2 days ago they were poor, we were with them in the street. Then they went and got a government job, and from nowhere they are millionaires. I think it doesn't add well. Somebody should ask, how did they become millionaires when their salary, we know the salary of a member of parliament, including allowances. When we equate that to what they have, we see that there is something fishy. And if they ask what they are supposed to do is to do what? To justify that this is how I earned this wealth.
So we do need a lifestyle audit.
We need a lifestyle audit currently. But if we have now people that own mines, like in Nigeria, Nigerian system of governance is from school, you go to some kind of ZNS, national service. From national service, you are on your own. You become an entrepreneur. When you become an entrepreneur, you get your wealth from that entrepreneurship and you become wealthy. You are paying the taxes and so on. There's no problem.
Okay, so now our very last question is, since we are ending with the issue of corruption, we have so many questions that we haven't asked, but unfortunately time has run out.
Yeah.
Do you think the current fight when it comes to corruption is free and fair? Because a lot of, we have had mixed feelings from a lot of stakeholders.
We feel that from actually the MMD time, the fight against corruption has been just a political game for the pre-independence politicians to perpetuate their stay in politics. And this is one of our core area where we're going to actually be campaigning to ensure that this fight is made genuine, because a lot of money is being lost. Today, if the people that are being accused to be corrupt are going to cross to the ruling party, all the cases are gone. They're not going to be, followed anymore. It means a political game. So what we are saying is that it's high time we actually campaigned to ensure that this fight against corruption become a genuine cause.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what can we expect from Generation Lead Zambia? And your last words, of course, you can talk to the viewers.
A lot, viewers, a lot. For those people that were born before independence, please follow our social media platforms and ensure that you actually, join the movement. Please join the movement. This is a movement of the people. It's another liberation struggle from the colonizers, the pre-independence generation.
Well, how can they join? How can they join?
Well, they can join us by calling us. I think the best way I don't have the specific numbers here, but follow Generation Lead Zambia. Go on Facebook and type Generation Lead Zambia. You'll be able to find us, all our contacts, and you can contact us and join us.
All right, so thank you very much for coming through. Unfortunately, they said don't send TV.
You see.
Well, this has been the People's Concern with me, Hope Msonde, and we have in studio, of course, we're joined by Mr. Brian Kayongo. I still need to get used to your last name.
Sure.
Who is a Commander-in-Chief, as he calls himself, from Generation Lead Zambia. Thank you very much for watching, and see you again on Tuesday.